drum is number 2. I'm clipping a little bit right now on the 1. See, I get the snare dialed in on 1. Clipping. The gain's on. There I'm not clipping. I'm just making noise. I'm not worried about the technique right now. Brain somewhere else. So with the snares on, I'm not clipping on 1. Now, on the kick, I think the kick is feeding through the bottom mic on 1. No, it's not. Good. So, it is clipping though. There's a little clip. Now that's good right there. Gain's on. Cool. What I'm doing is, this is just camera sound. This isn't being piped through anything. It's no recording software. So what I'm doing is doing the Focusrite tutorial on how to set that thing up. This is about technology integration. And I know you see this, the perfect, concise tutorials on, you know, how to do a technique when we're talking about percussion. But the whole objective is the reality aspect of it. Setting it all up, integrating the technology, learning through watching me learn how it is that I'm doing it, and then once it's all set up, mastered, then we can really start focusing on using it in the next phase of playing these drums. And you're all aware of what the objectives are for the percussion course that's, well, for the project on John Henry Bonham, what's to follow. And so what I'm doing right now, I'm setting up the line feeds in so that I know that I'm not clipping. That's step 1. I know that. I know how to do that. Next, I'm going to be looking at assigning each one of these inputs to a channel on the mixer board. That's following what I'm doing now. So, being enough said, I'm going to continue doing what I'm doing. I've been playing since I was a kid barefooted, because I've always had a kit of drums set up in one room or another. And just running around, playing through the day. I would just sit behind him, and I'd always be barefooted. This is West Virginia. So, that clipped a little bit right there on the bass. I know I'll be kicking it that hard when we really get into some hard pounding stuff, like the Immigrant Song. Break anything. You'll notice on this Sapphire Pro that when you got good headphones on and sound dampening, that if it is clipping, you don't want it to leave it clipped. Just, you know, turn it all the way up because you want to play grunge or something like that as a genre or sound that you really want to generate, simply because you'll break your Sapphire. So that control, when you got it peaked, being that it's a digital signal, later on in the software, when you get to mixing, you can ramp it up to anything you want to ramp it up to. What's important to realize, though, is right here, you don't want it clipping. Believe me, not on this hardware. So you need to get a good line level set in. So that's what I'm doing. Or I should say a good input source line in. So 1 and 2 and 2 are done. 3 are the hi-hat and the rack tom. Now that clipped. I think it'll be all right though. Now that's good. That sounds good. Okay, we're not worried about time and rhythm, not worried about measures right now, not worried about any of that. Just making noise right now. Let's get the old stick. That's good. Now the only thing I don't like about what I got going on here right now is 3 is a brass instrument. The rack tom instrument, skin and wood. You have different sound dynamics. So, that being said, since both of these are piped in on channel 3, that means I can't bus them and mix later on the brass against the skins. You want to assemble your instruments and sort of package them in your mix. So that way you can gain better control over the sound levels when it comes to mixing the sound dynamics after recording. So that basically in a nutshell is what patching is when you're combining instruments to move them to a master control track. So I don't like that these two things are on the same channel because I can't split them to bus them to different busing channels as two different groups. So what I need to do is split this channel and move the skin input to another skin input somewhere track so that it can be bussed in with them, and move the brass instrument input to one of the other inputs so that I can bus it in with the brass. That being said, I'm going to continue to just see what I got anyway. But that's on the list of things to write off that need to be fixed. See, I really don't like the signal I'm getting on the hi-hat either. I mean, in comparison, the tom is throwing off a lot more sound. More decibels than the hi-hat is. So what I'm talking about here is this is pretty much maxed out for input. It's not clipping, it's right where I want it to be. But when I play this instrument and it's on the same track, I'm adjusting the same knobs, I don't like the signal level, it's real low. Now if I was to adjust this, I would want to turn the signal level up, which then in turn would make that clip when I played it. So I need to separate these. That's another reason. And that's what we're talking about in the end when you're thinking about busing instruments together and assemblages. Why is it that you want to do that? Why don't I just mix each as an individual? Well, you can mix each as an individual prior to their composition with the other instruments that they're part of the family of. So what I mean is, if this is throwing out a lot more decibels than this instrument, that means that this instrument's louder than this instrument. I can turn this instrument down prior to busing it and make it match on level sound coming through the system of what we will be recording together with this one. And then all three of them together, so to speak. That's what we want to do. So once we have them mixed on level there, then we take that and combine it into a master bus track so that we can adjust all of them together. Now that being said, the skins from this little experiment that we just seen right here are most likely most likely throwing out more decibels than the brass is. So what we want to do is we want to level these primary lines in, bust them to a channel so that we can get a level on it, and then we will take all the brass, perhaps in combinations, like the cymbals, the crash cymbals are on one bus, and then the ride cymbal and hi-hat on another bus, because they're clearly ride instruments and their decibel levels rather low in contrast to the crash cymbals. Their decibels are higher. Now we're not talking about pitch, we're talking about decibels and sound. And that's just basically volume. So these are louder than these. They're all brass. So what we can do is we can separate these two and separate these three or two other buses to combine these instruments and these instruments. Now, we have with the bass and the snare. Now these two instruments right here are pretty much the core of an instrument assemblage, traditional percussion assemblage. So what we want to do here is set a level on the snare, primary input, set a level with the bass so that when we're playing the bass, snare together, they're balanced in sound, so you can hear both of them. One's not drowning out the other. And then what we do is we bus these onto their own separate master channel. So now what do we have? We have a master channel for the snare and the bass, which is balanced on the primary channels, and they both sound the same. They're not drowning one another out when we patch them to the first bus. And then we have these two instruments, same situation, we have them balanced in the primary, and then once they are not drowning one another out, so to speak, we bus those to a second bus channel, and then the same goes for the crash cymbals. And we take those and put them in on a channel. Now we have 4 bus channels, and they're primarily based on instrument family and the decibels that they're kicking out. And then balancing them together and equaling them out on 4 different channels. Now we know that the brass is most likely, this brass up here very well may be putting out more decibels even than our skins are. And the kick and the snare, we're really not sure where they're at yet, but we know they're balanced. And the brass, we're really not sure about where that's at. I gotta take a call. Lisa.